Welcome back to the Chip Lunch Podcast. It's very exciting to be back with you where you are listening or watching us on YouTube. Hello to everyone. And hello to Brad.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm great. I feel weird sitting on this side, but it's actually good. I've got a sore neck this week. And
Have you?
it's good to just focus in here. So, I don't know. Blessed.
Why have you got a sore... Blessed. Hashtag blessed. Why have you got a sore neck?
Because I went to a post-hardcore metal show on Monday to relive my younger days.
What band is this?
Alexis on Fire.
Oh,
So
I've heard you talk about them, but I don't know
I do
much about
like
them.
seminal Canadian post-hardcore band. Toured, and I had a great time, but my neck is very sore.
Your neck didn't have a great time?
No,
Or
it
your
did
neck
not.
was just... had too much of a good time?
Yes, that one too.
I see. Who'd you go with, your brother?
No, I went by myself.
You went on your own?
Yeah, it was
Wow.
actually super fun.
Really?
I don't know. I feel like it's been on my bucket list to go see a movie by myself for a long time. I haven't done that yet, but I think it was good. I was completely in the moment, just having fun and listening, and yeah, it was a good time.
Just let it go.
Yeah,
There you go. Right. Well, we have a guest on the
Do we?
podcast today. Yeah. Oh, yes. Whoops. We do have a podcast who has long legs because I keep hitting my knee on it.
You put me at the end.
We also have a podcast who's probably done more episodes than us.
Ooh,
Anna.
Hello.
Hi.
yeah.
How are you?
I'm well.
So
Hey,
we're
I'm
reaching
sorry
out
that
to
I keep-
Anna's audience.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. We're trying to pilfer some of Anna's audience. That's if you
right.
promote it on yours. Yes, I do apologise. We keep knocking knees,
It's
but
all good.
I shouldn't have put.
We're friends.
At the
It's
end.
fine.
Oh, that's nice to hear. Thank you. I was wondering. Welcome to Chip Lunch Podcast.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming on.
No worries.
You were saying that. What were you saying? What was your latest episode on Word on the Street podcast? Is what it's
Word
called,
on the
isn't
Street
it?
podcast. I have just created an episode on Palm Sunday
Oh.
with Jesus coming into Jerusalem. Yeah.
And what did you talk about on that actual episode?
I did talk about how all eyes were on Jesus and as he was coming in with the palms and the cloaks being laid down, and I likened it to me arriving at my wedding and walking down the aisle and all eyes on me, and I didn't really like that feeling.
Did you put like your bouquet in front of your face or something as you were walking down?
No, I had 6 months to prepare my mind for it, and it's something that every girl knows that she's going to do. Well, not every girl, but
Is keen to do.
Gonna
if they
do
can-
one
if they
day
can.
maybe?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, yes. Well,
Yeah.
I feel like all eyes on you when you stand up the front when you're getting married as a man.
Yeah, I think that's almost. I would say it's worse because you don't have anything to hold. If I've got something in my hands, I'm
Yeah.
fine.
yeah,
But
and
when
I
you're
had
just
my
standing there
dad,
like a
Yeah, that's true.
yeah. I found that like standing there with the groomsmen waiting for the bride to arrive, that was the worst. I didn't know who to really talk to. Some family members were trying to start conversations, but you're like,
I'm nervous,
you don't
man.
really know what
Leave
to
me
do.
alone.
Yeah, exactly. It's a
Yeah.
weird time.
Yeah.
It was good.
Yeah, I think a lot of the nerves come from a habit that I've got of saying the wrong word. It's close, but not quite.
Yeah.
So if that happens, don't laugh at me. That's something that regularly happens to me.
Like, can you give us an example?
No. I try and erase it from my brain as soon as it happens. But my dad does it, and
Oh,
it's a bit of
really?
a family thing.
Is it a little bit like I actually know someone that said that they intended to say, went to the gym to do some lunges, and they said actually went to the gym and did some lounges. Is it like that?
Yeah, I would say that. And I say stuff like, I say the wrong name or whatever in my podcast when I do it, and I have the chance to edit it. So
Yeah.
and I sound perfect when I publish each episode. I don't even say or anything.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, I cut them all out.
Oh, we're a little bit more laissez-faire on
Yes.
this podcast. That's because we want to know the real you.
I know,
Anna.
so I'm not going to sound so perfect, but that's
Oh.
all right.
That's interesting. Perfectionism. The first question. See, I just went, So we won't be cutting that out.
How do I like my hot chips?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, I like it when people just ask themselves because they're like, when's this thing going to be over? Yes, how do you like your hot chips?
Well, for many, many years, it was with chicken salt, but in recent years, I have been avoiding artificial everythings, and so I've had to adapt myself to the usual normal salt.
Yes.
And I don't eat a lot of hot chips; they're not that healthy for me. So when I do have them, they're a bit of a treat.
So you've got to make them extra special. And did you hear that? Chicken salt's fake. So
Doesn't make
It's a
not the
flavour
original.
enhancer. It just makes
Yes.
everything taste really amazing.
yes. It's like MSG. Makes everything better.
MSG, Madison Square
Except your
Garden.
body.
Yeah, exactly. exactly.
Makes
It's a good
your
time.
tongue amazing for a while, but
Yeah.
not the rest of your body.
That's
Yeah,
it.
well, that's most food.
Right. Yeah, that's it. Most food? Are you sure? Isn't that lots of food?
I don't know. I think that's most food people eat wouldn't be that great for them.
Oh, I see
I
what you're
think that was
saying.
the
Yeah,
point.
that's probably, that could be, not probably. That could be true. Let's not make some wild, outlandish statements on this
Yes.
podcast. Save that for word on the street. Do you have any sauce or anything? Or are you just going plain salt?
No, yeah, I just do the plain salt. If
Okay.
vinegar's offered, I'll often take some vinegar, but
Yeah.
it's not usually.
Oh, vinegar just does pop up occasionally.
Yeah.
I remember having it as a child, and I loved the vinegar.
I've never had vinegar on hot chips. Is it similar to the flavour of salt and vinegar on, crisps?
Yes,
Yeah.
and that was my favourite flavour before going off.
Mine was up there too for salt and
artificial
vinegar.
things,
Mhm. Okay. Well, something I've started asking people though is, do you have like a favourite childhood memory of hot chips?
Every Christmas, I would stay with my grandmother, and she would take us to the beach and
always
give
grandparents.
us fish and chips. That was her favourite,
Yeah.
and the whole family would go down and have a fish and chips meal.
That's nice.
I didn't like the fish, and Mum didn't like the batter, so we would swap.
Hang on, what would you swap though?
Well, I'd have her batter, and she'd have my
With the fish.
Yeah.
So she's shaving it off and then like giving it to you.
Yep.
Yeah, right. Okay. All right.
Teamwork.
Second, you want to ask the second question?
What is the
Brayden?
second question again?
How
Oh,
did
yeah.
I
How did
become
you
a
become a
Christian?
Christian? Yeah.
You can't second guess a seasoned podcaster.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, I've been telling you about me all the time.
Is that what you're calling yourself now?
Yeah, I'm heavily seasoned, not with
Yeah.
chicken salt.
Well, I think you've got more hours down than I do. My episodes are only 10 minutes.
Oh, really?
Yours, and I've got 140, so that's
Okay.
that's not that many.
Quality,
minutes.
not quantity.
What about the way you said that? Quality, not quantity,
Wow.
Joel.
While looking
that-
Joel in the eye.
You guys have got a lot of quality happening.
Yes,
That's great.
yeah.
I was trying to figure out how many episodes I've been on. It's probably like 120, something like that.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Heaps.
It's enough for you,
Yeah.
Joel.
No, it's a lot for everyone to go back and listen to and get to know people from the community.
Yeah, it's a lot
and
to have to put up with me as well.
That's a lot of conversion stories.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, so
Yeah.
I think this is for Chip Lunches episode 73.
Ah,
And then there's the shock absorber ones
Okay,
too. But
yep.
yes.
makes sense.
Anyway, let's get back to the original.
How I became a Christian.
Yes,
Yes.
thank you.
Yep.
Please do.
Well, I have never really known a time where I didn't know God. I didn't ever reject Jesus, and I have grown up in a Christian family. I was taught about all of the important things right from early on. Mum and Dad always prayed with me before I went to bed, and was very privileged in that. I lived in Lismore, where my dad was a youth minister for 8 years through primary school and up to year 8, and grew up in the church, in the Anglican church, with a Sydney Anglican minister dad, and he had a huge influence on me. And I remember a time, well, every time that anyone was invited to do, the sinner's prayer, you say sorry for your sins and you accept the Holy Spirit and you're going to heaven, I would always pray that because,
Yeah.
it's good to do those things. But, it wasn't ever for the first time, or I don't remember the first time.
Yeah.
But I do remember being about 8, and in our church you were allowed to do communion if you'd gone through a specific little booklet. So Dad sat down with me for a few nights and we went through the booklet, and I answered all the right questions and I was a Christian. I was classified, yep, she can do communion. And so from that age I did that. Yeah. We moved to Sydney when I was in year 8, and it was a little bit like coming home, because Lismore is very different and there weren't a lot of Christians there, and our youth group was very small. We used to combine youth groups all the time with all the other Anglican churches in the area, and we'd meet up in Ballina and have camps with all of the other Christians in the area. So that was really cool. But coming to Sydney, there were a lot of like-minded people in the churches, and I found, like-minded people and was able to realised that I wasn't alone. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So year 8, you moved back to Sydney.
Yeah.
So do you remember a time at all where you, like you said, you did the little booklet. Do you remember any time where you actually, like, around that age, decided I am going to be a Christian, or you just kind of like,
No.
I am a Christian?
Yeah. I'll do that again. Yeah, always.
Is that why you kept doing
Always.
the sinner's prayer, just to make sure?
No, it was if anyone believes in Jesus, then they can pray this prayer and say sorry for their sins. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do that.
Sounds good.
But I wouldn't go up the front, it was just in your heart.
Yeah.
Better than just sitting there doing nothing.
How does it? Because it's hard. Like as both Brad and I are from a non-Christian family, it's kind of hard to know
Yeah.
what that's like. How do you think that would be, in your experience? And we can maybe go back and forth about it. How is that different, do you think, to growing up in a non-Christian family? Do you think, I mean, you probably didn't have much choice in terms of like choosing your family,
Yeah.
but looking back on it, do you think that was really cool
Yeah.
growing up?
Yeah. I think unlearning things is really hard. So if you get in a habit of something, to change that habit, you first have to unlearn it before you learn a new habit. And so I had the privilege of learning to do the godly way the first time. So if we were going to speak nastily to each other with my brother and sisters, Mum would come down on us really hard. We were never ever to badmouth each other or to say horrible things, and that was a real priority. And so I remember coming to Sydney, I met some friends, and they would see me at youth group being nice to my sister, and I'm like, whoa, do you really treat your sister like that?
You do.
That's
I
crazy.
have observed your family. You do look after each other as siblings very
Oh,
much.
thank you.
No, thank you for being a great example.
No worries.
And does that, because how many, do you want to tell us your family? Like you have, can I guess?
Yeah.
You have one brother and 2 sisters, is that right? Okay.
Yep.
There we go, good. But where do you fit in the
So
the
I
hierarchy?
have an older sister,
Yep.
2 years older,
Yep.
and then me, and then my brother is 2 years younger than me, and my little sister is your age, 5 years younger.
Yeah, she was in the same year
Yeah.
as me at school, but not same school.
Yep.
Madeline. I was like, I know her as Maddie, but I'm like, what's her full name? It's Madeline. So what about growing up as a child of a pastor?
Yeah.
How does that, do you feel like you have to keep up appearances all the time?
He was only the pastor while in Lismore.
Oh,
He
yeah.
moved to Sydney, and he took over the management of the running of the Port Hacking Conference Centre's Youth Works.
Okay.
And so while we were in Lismore, I was a bit famous. Everyone knew me. And I mean, I did say that I didn't like people all eyes on me, but I'm happy to have a one-on-one. Or
One-on-one with many. I'm happy to sign autographs whenever they require them.
And we got a lot of, so Dad was the youth minister, and when I was in primary school, we had a lot of different babysitters. They were all really fun, and they all spent lots of time with us. Yeah.
Yeah, right. What's Lismore like? I looked it up on Google Maps just to check I knew where it was.
Yeah.
It's right near Byron Bay and Ballina. Describe what it's like for us that haven't been there, like me.
It was a long time ago.
What was it like
There was
then?
a big Indigenous community there, and there was a lower socio-economic area. There's a lot of hippies. You don't need to wear shoes, and there was a lot of shops that sold incense and stuff. I used to burn incense in my room, wear crocheted jumpers and beading, and I don't know, like.
Why did you say crochet jumpers like that?
Oh, I loved it. I don't know, I saw one in the shop the other day, and I was really tempted.
Oh, really? You can still pull it off, I
I
reckon.
know, I was thinking that, but I'm a bit more practical these days.
Oh, you should I think you should have committed to it. Okay, so then you come back to Sydney.
Yeah.
Is that hard moving at like year 8? Was that hard for you? Because you're just like starting high school and stuff like that.
Yes. And I went to, Lismore High, I've walked through Kirrawee High, the kids go to Kirrawee High. It's exactly the same buildings,
Oh, really?
same layout, same everything.
Like kind of built it around the same time maybe or something.
Yeah, must have been. I went to C Block, I'm like, the canteen's here, there's, there's toilets up there. I'm like, yep, exactly as I remember
As it should be. Some would say.
And I moved,
Okay.
I moved to Sydney, and my sister got into Innisborough, which is where Mum and Dad wanted me to go, but there wasn't space for me. So I went to Danebank, and that was the biggest culture shock I've ever had.
Wow, okay.
And it was
Yep.
freezing compared to Lismore.
Bit different to no shoes.
Yeah. Well, in the winter, we would take jumpers off, by recess. It was
Yeah.
beautiful weather.
In Lismore, sorry.
Lismore, yeah.
Yes,
And
okay.
I mean, Damebank had the stockings and the polished shoes. And
Yeah.
I used to wear basketball, Nikes to school.
Yeah.
No, that's
Have
not
no.
allowed.
Blazers and a
Yeah.
bowling cap.
Yeah,
the
the
hat.
hat, yeah.
Yeah. It was,
Yes. I was asking some
intense.
other people about that from Damebank, and they're like, we don't wear the hat.
No, well,
I'm
I
like,
did.
Okay.
I only lasted a term there. I came home crying every afternoon, and I did get
Oh.
into Innerborough in the end. But yeah, that was a shock to the system.
Do you mind if I ask why you were coming home so upset?
I was coming home upset because there were some nasty girls there, and there were some nice girls, and I opted to be hanging out with the nice girls, but then ended up being treated badly by the other girls. I don't know. I felt like there was only two types of people in my year: nice ones and ones who were mean to the nice ones.
Yeah.
That was how my 13-year-old self viewed my term.
Yeah, I mean, it must be difficult because if you're moving and then you go into a school that's finding it hard to adapt to as well.
Yep.
And then so you managed to go to Inderborough. What was your parents' perspective on that? Because you've talked about how great it was growing up in a Christian
Yeah.
home. What was their perspective on dealing with something like that?
So my mum went to a girls' school, and she vowed she would never force any of her children to go to a girls' school because she found it really difficult.
Which
And
school did she go
She
to?
went to Skeggs Darlinghurst.
Okay. Right.
Yep. And so she was very happy to just switch me over.
Oh. Wow. Okay. And because one of the reasons I ask though is because it's a little bit different now that I've got 3 children,
Yes.
and to think about how you're kind of bringing them up differently to how I've
Yeah.
been brought up, and you've been brought up in a Christian family, but Brayden, like I said, Brayden and I haven't.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like it's almost like first time
Yeah.
kind of thing, whereas you've had it a little bit modelled to you.
Mm-hmm.
And I suppose my question is, it's hard to come up with a question after saying that, but it's more like how do you think it has informed how you're parenting as well, but also how you grew up in that situation?
With the public school, private school thing,
Oh,
or
okay,
just anything?
That, and then also like how you grew up
Yeah.
throughout high school, I suppose.
So I did do the walkthrough at Kirrawee High, but we didn't buy a house in the catchment area. And so, Dad knew Stu and knew that Chip Lunch was going on there, and it was massive there. And so that was one of the things that was drawing Mum and Dad to send us to Kirrawee. But Innerborough was equally as good with the Christian side of things. And I went to I didn't go to the Christian group actually. When I was in year 10, I started leading the girls' Christian group, but I didn't go to the general Christian group. I had enough going on out of school hours. I don't know why I said it like that. But I mean, it's funny. Yeah, looking back, the Christians at Innerborough often went to Menai Baptist Church because that's the church affiliated with Innerborough, and so Mum and Dad went there, and I would go along with them to their youth group, which was on a Sunday morning. Mm-hmm. I went along to another youth group on a Wednesday at a different church, and my friend invited me to Rev 21 at Gummy Anglican, and I went on to that on Friday.
Just load them up.
So, Mum and Dad were happy for me just to go wherever I wanted.
You really did have a lot going on out of hours, as you were saying. So what's a Wednesday youth group
Well, the
like?
Wednesday youth group was good for, clearing out the hall for people on Friday. So they had the year 10, 11, 12 group on Friday, and so they would put the year 9 and 8 and 9s on a Wednesday and the 7s on a different day.
What church was that?
Janelli.
Yeah, I thought it was, because I had friends from school, one of who is your brother-in-law, where they would go on a Wednesday night. And because I'd only kind of just started going to Rev, and I'm like, Wednesday night? What's wrong with you? That doesn't make
sense. Gives you a chance
at all.
to do the church hopping thing in all the youth groups.
And I was like, oh, no, thanks. I'll just keep going to.
Yeah, I don't recommend it. So, I mean, I mention it because, Mum and Dad were keen just for me to go anywhere. But my parenting, I am committing to one church and getting my kids to make relationships with people just in one church and serve in one church. And I think that's good that it's my church because I know all those people and I can help out with things, and it's good.
How do you, growing up in, because eventually you're going to Innaburra, how do you think that your relationship with God developed over that time? Whether it was the external activities you're talking about, or at school, or anything like that. Was there like certain points in your life you're like, you can look back and go, oh, that's when I actually grew as a Christian?
Yeah, I would say in assemblies at Innaburra, we would have Bible readings, and then the principal would do a mini sermon on why we should be wearing our school uniforms and not pushing it in the canteen line. And it would frustrate me so much because I'm like, there's a gospel opportunity there. There's so many non-Christians here and you're talking about that. They're not going to want to have anything to do with God after this.
Right.
So, not that helpful with my Christian walk at school. I think most of it happened at home. I was in year 5 or year 6 and my brother was dobbed on me for swearing for something, and I don't think I even swore. But Mum sat me down and said, look, you're at school, when you're out, I can't have any control over what you say, and it's up to you to choose. And you can choose if you want to follow God and not swear and be a nice person, or you can choose to be a bad person, or, someone who doesn't want to follow God. I think she said bad person, but a bad girl maybe even. But that was her way of simplifying it for my childlike brain.
Yep.
And I remember thinking about it, thinking, oh, wow, I get to choose. I've always been the good girl. I've always been so compliant. And I remember it not being the decision that I would just automatically think, I want to be good. It was, oh, cool. I
have an option to be bad.
Yeah, I'm actually getting to the age, I didn't have a lot of choices growing up. I was told to do a lot of things and didn't have many options to choose things. So I thought, this is a good opportunity to choose.
Mm-hmm.
And I chose to follow God and not swear. Yeah.
Very different to my time at high school. Anything I got in trouble for was swearing in primary and high school most of the time. So that wasn't...
that's another difference between growing up in a Christian family, I guess.
Well, exactly. Yeah. Also, did have a certain fondness for swearing. But it's just me being an open book, guys. So then, were you going to Gymea Anglican as soon as you came back from Lismore?
I went to Janelli mostly. So I went on Sunday night, to Janelli Anglican, and I went to a Bible study at Janelli Anglican and youth group at Janelli Anglican. And it wasn't until a friend invited me to the Friday nights where I did Rev 21 for a little bit, and apparently there was a lot of people there, and just a few Innaburra people and a couple of people from Caringbah and other random places, but mostly I reckon it was 50% of year 10 Kirrawee.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I was there. And, there was a lot of energy and a lot of celebrating who Jesus is and what he's done. And I really liked that. So I made the choice to switch. Mum said that if I wanted to, she said I need to choose one, and I need to make sure that if I'm going to go to Gymea Anglican, I have to stop my Bible study at Janelli and start a Bible study at Gymea. And my friend that I knew from school wasn't part of a Bible study, and so I had to talk to these people from Caringbah and say, which Bible study are you in? Mum wants me to go. Can you tell me where it is and what to do? And I think the first week my friend actually from Innaburra came, and we joined, and we were going every week ever since, and that was one that was run by Fee Francesconi with Kath Breen and few others.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Kath Breen has been on the podcast.
Kim Crawford's sister. Sisters. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's their names? Crawford sisters. Karen and
Jodie.
Jodie. That's right. I couldn't remember their names. Sorry. I feel really bad about
That's
that.
all good.
Apologies to Karen or Jodie if you are listening to this podcast or watching it on YouTube. Subscribe. So what about after high school? What were you thinking about doing after high school?
Yes. Well, so I think it might have been year 12 when I went to a African Enterprise night with Gymea Anglican Church. It was a very special event in a very special place in Miranda and like a reception venue, and he
What reception venue was
it was like Aristocrats. I was trying to think of the name before. On Kiora Road. I think a lot of formals were there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, up where there's a wedding dress shop.
Oh,
now.
there.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yep.
Above like where it used to be a hobby shop. Underneath on the corner.
Yeah.
Used to do model cars and stuff
Yeah,
there.
yeah, above
Yep,
that. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's a reception venue there, was it?
There was.
Wow.
Yeah, and I think his name was Michael Cassidy. I'm trying to remember, but I could be wrong. The speaker, and he talked about full-time ministry or devoting. It was more about devoting your life to serving God, and coming from a ministry-minded family, I thought that was pretty good. And he did invite people to come up the front who wanted to devote their lives to serving God. So I went up the front along with 10 others from our church, and it was all very exciting. I think he might have been talking about devoting your life to overseas mission, but he didn't specify, and so we were all up there not thinking of overseas mission. But so that had influenced my decision to study theology, and I ended up doing a double degree in theology and education when I left school.
What university offers that?
Well, UWS offered that, linking up with Sydney College of Divinity.
Really?
Yeah.
That's cool. I didn't know we were UWS alumni together.
Ah, there you go.
How do you like that, UAW?
Let's go Ducks.
So, UWS, which campus?
So I ended up doing most of my work at Bankstown.
Oh, that's the good one.
Yeah.
Because it's so close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did have to transfer, but yeah.
Why?
Oh, no, because it was going to be Penrith. Yeah, they wanted me to be at Penrith, and I worked hard to get to Bankstown.
Oh,
it was the closest one. It was the closest one to my house at the time.
That's right. It's a bit of a theme. As like, not heaps keen on this educational institution. I'm gonna move it.
Yeah. I think by the time I'd finished school, education, I was pretty much over it. I wanted to go and
You were about to say explore.
I was going to say just do things. Like I was sick of learning, and I just wanted to. Yeah,
sick of studying and learning, but you wanted to learn in the real world.
No, I didn't even want to do that. I should have taken a gap year, but anyway, whatever.
So, hey, what was it? Sorry, education and divinity together. What was the reasons behind that? Just because you wanted to?
Oh, look, Mum found this course, and no, I don't think anyone else did it in the whole entire world. Because every time I needed to work out what subjects, and all of the staff at all the universities went, "What is this?
We actually offer this
degree? How does this work? I don't know."
Who told you could do
Mum's like, "This is a good one. It's only 4 years." I thought, "Oh, that's great."
Thanks, Mum. Double degree in 4 years.
Yeah, and I didn't feel like I was fully equipped for anything at the end. But we all feel like imposters sometimes, don't we?
Yeah.
Or maybe most of the time. In my case. Look at me wearing a football jersey. What was good about doing that degree though? What did you like doing about that degree? You said you didn't probably. You're like.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot to come out of it, or you feel like that's the case. But what was the good stuff?
I don't know.
Lunch.
Look, I did. I remember having a Wednesday class at Wesley Institute. It's been renamed now. I don't even know what it is. It was in Drummoyne, and it was from 9 till 12. And chip lunch at Kirrawee High was at 1 o'clock. And if I left at 11:45, then I could catch the bus and the train and make it to chip lunch in time, or maybe with 10 minutes, like 10 minutes late or something. And I mentioned this to the lecturers, and they were really keen. They were like, "Yeah, go do it. You can leave 15 minutes early." It's
great.
Good. Yeah, so it's very ministry minded, and they loved that I was doing things like that. And yeah.
Did you figure out kind of what ministry you wanted to do or anything like that, or is it just like you still weren't sure once you finished?
Well, I've always been. Whenever I mentioned the degree that I did, people would say, "Oh, so you want to be a scripture teacher?" And it's like, "Yeah, well, you don't actually need a degree for that." But yeah, I guess I just really well.
Just wanted to do it really, really well.
I did teach scripture while I was studying as well at Grace Point and Kirrawee Public Schools. I taught Jared. No, not Jared. Pete Waddington, my very first year.
Yeah. Hard to miss that guy.
Yeah, and that they had no teachers, so they put the whole lot of year sixes in the library. And there were
Nice.
45 students that I had to teach.
That'll
and
work really well.
I was 18 at the time.
Oh. And what did that teach you, Anna? Because that would be a struggle. So what do you think that taught you in terms of teaching?
I remember juggling in my mind the role of being a friend compared to being a teacher. And I definitely didn't want to be a teacher with these kids when I'm ministering to them. So I said, call me Anna. And they were really good kids. The teachers were in the room, so they all just listened and they were excellent. There was actually volunteers who didn't want to teach scripture, but they wanted to come and help, like hand things out and stuff. So there was a couple of older people in the room. And here I was at 18 taking over the actual lesson.
Listen, I
don't remember much else about it.
I'm studying a double degree that only takes 4 years. Listen to me. That's cool that you did that though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I also, I remember, kids ministry was where it's at. I have great memories of camps up in Lismore, Christian camps, learning and just being separate from the family, just having lots of fun and making memories. And so I led on the camp. It's not called Extreme Camp. It is Extreme Camp.
Extreme.
When 2000, that's when Jared Spring was there with all his friends, and I met Ange Merrick for the first time when she was in year 6. Ange Greaves.
Ange Greaves now, Greaves' wife.
Ange Greaves, that's right. And so always done kids ministry. I remember after that, one of the leaders said I was thinking about playing soccer and getting to know a few people from church a bit more, and I don't play sport. But I thought I could.
I got that vibe
try.
because you went to like 17 things out of hours, as you said, but they were all youth groups.
I never liked getting sweaty.
Oh, really?
And I didn't know how to run without getting a stitch because I didn't drink anything. Water. I had a glass of milk or something a day. Yeah.
Oh, you didn't drink any other liquids?
No. So that's why I got a stitch, I think.
I want to delve more into this. Why didn't you drink more water?
I didn't like it. I didn't feel thirsty. I didn't know that it was linked to me not being able to run. I actually had no reason to run or desire to run, and so I didn't like exercise at all. And I mean, I liked playing tennis, and I like that's the only thing that would get me running. And I like going to the snow. I thought if I lived near the snow, I'd be so fit. But that's not really going to happen.
Get me a snow machine, Dad. I know you haven't touched your water.
No, I like to have. Nowadays, I do drink water, but I generally do just have a big, like a litre at a time, or like.
Oh, you just
I'll have a bottle of water, and these cups are a bit small. I thought I would get a cup, just in case I got parched talking too much.
Not so far, I see.
Not so far. That's right.
So if you graduate uni, I'm guessing you finished the course.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Did you have plans after that, or you just kind of?
So yeah, I became a primary teacher.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Didn't you?
Actually, no, I did know that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You became a primary school teacher.
Yes.
Does that mean? Oh, because you were trained in education.
Yes.
Could you do scripture teaching as well, or you had to just become a teacher?
I just did teaching. Got temp work. Became a teacher. Worked out in Liverpool and Mount Druitt areas and tougher areas where the parents aren't so much of a problem. No, the parents are more of a problem, and then the kids, they're having fights in the playground. And
the parents having fights?
Anyway.
Were they?
Yeah.
Wow.
It was interesting times.
I mean, that's the kind of school that I want to go to.
Yeah. with the
just
high school,
entertainment.
The high schoolers lighting fires just on the other side of the fence, just to be a bit interesting.
We've got to keep up with mum and dad.
That was a lifetime ago. I didn't teach for long.
Oh, didn't you?
No.
Was there what was your conviction or reason to become a primary school teacher?
Look, I think it's probably because I didn't have much of an imagination, and I love children. And so that's how I ended up there. Because, if you love kids, you become a primary teacher, right? I'm not the typical organised primary teacher that you would imagine.
Well, I'm married to one, so I've only got one view of teacher life, but
I'm also probably a bit too introverted for it. So I'd come home and I'd be a bit snappy and yeah.
Okay.
I think you need to be an extrovert to hang out with kids for 6 hours a day and then live your life as well.
Well, I'm interested you say that because I would say my wife probably tends more towards introversion than extroversion.
Yep. How does she cope?
Maybe she doesn't cope with me when she comes home, right? But me, the extrovert, hey, let's go hang out with people. You've just done an 8-hour day. Let's go hang out and have dinner with like 7 other people. That's what I would be like when we didn't have kids. But tell us more about why you think you're an introvert and why you think that impacts how you teach, or you weren't a teacher for very long.
Well, I have done the tests and I'm kind of in the middle of introversion and extroversion, but when I hang out with a lot of people, a lot of the time I end up using up all my extrovert time and I need some solitude to recharge. And I find that with parenting as well. So I identify as an introvert.
No, that's fair enough. It's something we've talked about on the podcast before. Are you similar? You're kind of in the middle. Did we discuss that,
very
Braden?
much in the middle. But I'm married to a real introvert, so
Yeah.
that kind of pushes me the other way.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, because I feel like I play extrovert. I have to play
You're
extrovert.
the most extroverted in
Yes,
the couple.
in the couple. So then I end up playing extrovert.
I see.
Yeah, and I have a lot of stuff to do with my job involves being an extrovert. So
Yeah.
that's just the way it goes.
Like playing music up on stage.
There's different about that.
Yeah,
I think
okay.
that's different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why.
You're an artist.
Oh yes. No, I don't know. I don't find it uncomfortable if I have a guitar. I've been playing for too long. It's easy. Whereas other things take more energy. Like I walked into chapel this morning at Moore College, and Lewis unhelpfully made us sit in the front row, which meant that the love you, Lewis. The person who runs chapel walked straight up to me and said, "Hey, can you pray for chapel today?" Like literally 3 seconds before the thing started, and that was very.
Does that mean you have
stressful.
to get up front?
Yes,
Right.
and that was very stressful. Whereas, like, if I'm more prepared, then I'm not that worried about it. So I think, I go either ends.
It's the difference between doing the Bible reading and doing the prayers, like you're reading your own thing rather than reading the Bible.
I think I with introversion and extroversion olive oil, I feel like I go either way, where if I've spent too much time with people, I really need some time alone. But then I remember in school holidays where I would have to mind my little brother. So we wouldn't necessarily be able to hang out with friends when we were doing that because we would just ignore our little brother.
And then you go stir crazy.
Yeah, exactly. I would start going stir crazy after a couple of days.
Yep.
So I think I swing back and
It's
forth.
good to have a balance.
Yes.
You know yourself and know what you need.
Yes.
Because I'd probably hang out with people every night of the week if I could.
Yeah.
I think. Or maybe Ethan might be even more down that scale than I am, as we've
that's
talked
true.
about.
I
But
feel like week away is like that. Like I do get a massive post week away depression.
Do you?
I have so much fun, and then the night after we leave, I get super depressed
Wow.
every time.
Post camp blues, they're called.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think I used to get them before we had kids.
Oh yeah.
But now because there's obviously more people around, it's still like
You get to keep up the camp
Yeah,
fun.
yeah, a little bit like that.
Every day's a camp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get to sing the songs.
that's very
Do the
true though.
actions.
Yeah, that's very true. Which is awesome.
Yeah.
That was like kind of the introduction of my children to Christian music was the kids' song a week away. So because I don't listen to that much Christian music. Yes, but I feel like it probably is good to know yourself, because then I think it helps you to love other people around you in more often, or in the way that without burning yourself out. Or you can also say, hey, I'm struggling with this now, and you can tell someone, and then they can go, oh, that's okay. Whereas if you just like don't tell them that like, oh, I need some solitude, or I'd be like, what's wrong with you? Just come on. Like that's my problem as an extrovert, right?
Yeah.
It's the same thing. So
Good to empathise and understand where other people are coming from
Yeah.
as well.
How did we get on to intro? Oh, because of teaching. You also said that you had a lack of imagination, so that's why you chose to be a primary school teacher. What does that mean? Can you please clarify?
Well, now I look back and think about all of the jobs that you could have as a person who loves kids. I could be a nurse at a paediatric ward. I definitely couldn't, but child psychologist or anything to do with children.
Yeah.
There's so many different avenues that I could have gone down. Anyway, it doesn't
I sense that you're a little bit disappointed about that.
No, it doesn't matter because I have devoted a lot of, ever since having Ted, I've made the kids a priority, and so any work that I've done has been around them and has been within the school hours and stuff, and so it hasn't made a huge difference to my life, so it doesn't really matter.
Okay.
Yeah.
In the if you had the chance to go back, what would you choose instead? If any choice to working with kids, what do you think you would choose?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think.
I thought that was a great question.
Yeah, it was a good question.
You don't have to flatter him.
I feel like you're on this podcast just to point out all my faults today. I'm only joking.
I think I studied for 4 years and then I
Yeah.
taught for 3 and had Ted.
And you've been at school for-
I would have done something for 7 years where I would have just done something totally different, not studied at all. But, God had a reason for me doing those things and learning those things. So we'll see what's in the future.
It's a long time to be at school, though. Like, if you think about studying and then just going back to school, I think.
With your children, you mean?
No, just like in terms of
You're at school.
you
for
did high
13
school,
years and
then you
4
did
more years at
uni, and then you went back to
Yeah.
school.
And you said that you were kind of
I know.
tired of studying and learning it.
And the
then
first
when
time
you-
I went back for a prac, I
Yeah.
felt my heart racing, like it was a bit of a panic.
Oh, really?
Oh,
I think I did decide to become a primary teacher because I had such bad teachers in Lismore. And they weren't very nurturing, and they would use public humiliation for good behaviour. And so
So you kind of like wanted to change that in a sense.
yeah, but then once I got into the schools, I realised that there's so many other teachers doing that. They were all lovely. I like being lovely. But it's good. It has changed.
Oh.
Yeah.
Do you have that's interesting that you said that. Do you have a bit of a desire to go in and change things for the better?
Don't know. Yeah, I guess so. I always like to fix things that aren't working very well.
Put that down. Did that come up in any of your introversion, extroversion tests, or is it just?
Oh, I haven't done one for I think I've only done one. It could have been 20 years ago.
Okay.
Sorry, I don't remember.
That's
what
fine.
did church look like when you started working? Did that change what you were doing with the youth group, or like you said, you were jumping from uni to chip lunch?
Yep.
How did that change the way you would getting involved at church, going to full-time work?
That's a good question, Braden.
Good question. So when I was in year 12, I decided to focus on my studies and not do any leading of youth group or anything like that. So every Friday night, I did lots of study. I actually drove my little sister up to youth group, and then I picked her up, and it would have been easier if I'd just stayed. But the year after, I did lead youth group, and that's Friday night, and I did Solies on Saturday night, church on Sunday night. We had a Bible study during the week, and we had a leaders meeting, and I loved going to all those things. That was a lot of extroversion, I guess.
Yeah, that's why I loved it.
And hanging out with friends and getting to know people better and becoming part of a team, and we were all committed to the ministry.
Yeah.
And it was great. And so I did that for the whole time I was in uni. Yeah. And when I finished uni, I literally a month later got married, moved out, got a job.
Yeah.
And Brad and I together became Solies leaders. So we didn't do the Friday night anymore. We did the Saturday night, but we still went to the leaders meeting and all of the other things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was like a lot of changes all at once.
I was going to say.
It's kind of
That's a lot. What was it? Finish uni, married, and a new job in the space of 3 months?
And we purchased a house.
Oh, all right.
And yep.
And what else would you like to do? So yes, a lot of change all in one go.
Changes, yeah.
For a particular reason, you think, or it was just this is all just happening right now?
Oh, I guess it was all good timing.
Okay, God's timing.
Yeah, all good timing.
Sorry,
God's timing.
Do you? Now you've mentioned Brad, so I would like to hear. The good thing is that Brad, your husband, is coming on the next episode. So I really want to hear the stories and see if they line up or not. Tell us about how that relationship blossomed.
Well, Brad went to Canada for a year, and I had never really talked to him before. He came back, and he was chatting with a mutual friend, and I'm like, "Oh, you're back? How you going? How was your time away?" And I don't know. We chatted after that, and
It came back way more interesting. Is that?
I just had something to talk to him about. I did read a book, How to Talk to Anyone, and they said, put something interesting on your clothes or wear something that's like a talking point. So, when you're pregnant, people can go up and talk to you because you're obviously pregnant. So there's different, if you've got a broken arm, people are always asking you that same question. I remember when Ethan had his first day of kindergarten, everyone was asking him how it was because there was something to talk about. He got really cross. He's like, I don't want to answer that anymore. Why is everyone asking me that?
We should ask him now.
Hey, how was your first day in kindergarten?
That's really funny. It's like just church people being like really nice, and he's like, "Shut up."
He was the only kid, so everyone doted on him.
Yeah. If you read that book, did you wear something interesting?
Oh, I don't.
So the answer is yes.
I don't like to stand out. Remember,
Yes.
when I walk down the aisle, everyone's looking at me. I don't like to stand out too much. No, I don't.
You didn't? Not even after reading the book?
No.
Oh.
It was. No.
You just noticed what everyone else was putting on. Why has that person got a funny hat on? Now, we were talking about Brad, but you also just said, why don't you like people looking at you?
My personality type, I don't naturally like being the centre of attention unless I feel like I'm in a safe environment. Yeah, probably to do with that public humiliation from primary school. We're getting deep now.
Well, if you allow us to, I don't feel you need to bring up anything that upsets you.
No, it's all good.
But that is interesting that because I do think we have experiences that obviously shape us, but also for our good as well. And if we take the perspective, like a perspective that God is putting us through different trials to shape us. So that's why I was going to ask you, what do you think that has worked out in your favour as well, not wanting to be the centre of attention?
I think I am a good listener. And so, I'll be listening and I can, really read between the lines and hear what people are saying and hear what they're intending to communicate, or even if they can't do it with their words. Yeah.
What do you think Braden's trying to communicate right now?
I think he's trying to listen.
Curious.
Yeah.
I like being in a conversation where people are talking, you just kind of like get to sit back and listen.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
See, sometimes I'm like that, and other times I'm like, listen to me.
There's nothing better than being on the train and pausing your earphones and someone's having a real cracker of a conversation behind you and you're like, this is so interesting. You just get a little glimpse into their life.
Oh, okay. You mean like with someone that's just got on the train, or it's someone they know?
Oh, yes. Either or.
Okay. It is fun.
It's normally someone they know, though. They're chatting about something and you're like, wow, this is like a little window into their life that I have no idea about and I'm probably never going to see them again.
One of my favourite train stories was when I used to catch a train from Janelli Station and I got on, and then I think this woman got on maybe at Como, and she was listening to something. It might have been a podcast, but she didn't have her headphones plugged in. But she had them in her ears. So she thought she was listening to it, and it wasn't until like Hurstville that she's like, oh.
Nobody wanted to tell her.
So the whole train is listening to it. The whole carriage is listening to a podcast.
Was it interesting?
No, I can't remember. I'm like, because I think I was listening to something.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why can't I hear something else? It's like someone must have their headphones turned up so loud. and then I did take it off. I'm like, I'm not working. I can figure this out pretty quickly, but like, what's going on? And I'm like, I don't think she has those headphones plugged in, but she had the headphones in her ears, so it took me a while to figure it out. And then when she realised, I'm like, that's funny. Anyway, back to Brad.
Okay.
So you just Just then you just said, we just had a conversation. Did you
We
just
just-
decide to get engaged after that? Or
Well,
had a great conversation about Canada and we got engaged.
yes, that's pretty much how it works.
Really?
We have a lot in common.
Mm.
And so he went out and bought a 4-wheel drive, and my dad, you know, we went away for a weekend with a big group of us, and we went 4-wheel driving one of the days, and Dad was like, "What did you do on the weekend?" And I told him. He goes, "Oh, that night at church." He went straight up to Brad and was like, "You've got a 4-wheel drive, let's go out to Menai." And so
Can you
Dad,
go full driving in Menai, can you?
there was, I'm not sure if you still can, there's motorbike tracks around the back, and
Yeah, there's motorbike. I didn't know you could go full driving.
Yeah, go for driving. And so we did that, and I don't know, just grew from there.
Come on, more details, though, please. What did you like about Brad? That he was just from Canada?
He was
Or
very,
he just come back from Canada, sorry.
he'd just come back from Canada. He's very decisive, and I'm an indecisive person.
Oh.
And so it was really cool to be able to say, "What do you want to do today?" And he had all these really good ideas.
Yeah,
So
that
we
is
went
good.
down to Shell Harbour, and we went snorkeling one day, and, you know, like just,
That's a nice date. I like that.
yeah, different things. We went to Guatemala, and
Mm-hmm.
I was just full of like, I don't know what to do. I mean, it was before phones, and before, you know, we could just Google stuff and find out very easily. It was before Instagram and all of the amazing
Oh, so
places
you like knew
being
all these
tagged.
cool
He
locations
knew
and
the
stuff.
South Coast
Yeah.
so well.
Really?
That's cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Do you think
cool.
you're an adventurous person?
Mm.
You mean like a risk taker?
Maybe. Well, do you like going on adventures?
Yes. Yeah, so we spend every school holidays going on adventures and exploring new places, and we often, last holidays we travelled probably a bit too far. We went to the middle of Australia, like halfway
I was
across
gonna-
Australia, went to
this-
South
yeah.
Australia.
I was going to bring this up later, but why don't we do it now? Because did you go around Australia or you went through Australia?
Last holidays.
Oh,
Or
no.
like- so nearly 5 years ago now, we did a big trip around Australia, but
Yes.
we did skip Queensland because we figured that
Because you
was
don't need
within our It's something you can do within a month or something. But
Okay.
we only had 16 weeks, so we wanted to spend as long as we could in WA and Northern Territory.
Really?
Yeah. And Brad and I had actually already been to Cape York together before. The kids are like, you went without us.
That's where
We're
Ted
like,
said he
"Yeah."
wants to go on
He
school.
does. He did.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's it.
We're like, cool. You've got a couple of years to convince Amelia McMorty to go to Cape York too.
Good luck with that.
But
Just say sleigh a few times, Ted. You might get
No.
somewhere.
I was like, yeah, I've been on a few adventures, but not anything close to that. So
Yeah.
we'll see how we go. Mate,
Did he-
probably would.
Did he know you
show
were
us.
talking about schoolies, or did he just
Yeah, I
think
think
you
he
were,
was thinking
Okay.
because we were talking about the Capital last year and finding a pink slug. But yeah, I think Cape York's a whole nother level of.
Yeah.
Because Cape York, you can only get there a certain time
Yes.
of the year, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you've got to go in the dry season between.
Because it's like a big dirt road.
Yeah.
But
And
in
it just rains out.
in the wet
Yeah.
season, it's just wet. You just can't get there.
And the rivers, there's a lot of river crossings, so you've got to wait till the rivers are low and you can cross them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know how capable it'd be the deaf leading the blind with that
So,
one. I think.
so we've been to the southernmost point, the most easterly and the most westerly,
Ah,
and
so yes.
and
So
that's cool.
and the geographical centre of Australia.
so
but we
we have
haven't
to,
been to the
yeah.
northern. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Oh, so Cape York's the furthest north.
Yes.
Is Byron Bay the furthest east?
Yeah. So that's
Okay.
pretty easy.
So you knocked
to
that
tick
off. So that's pretty
Yep.
quick.
It's more touristy,
Yeah, and more hippies.
less crocodile.
Yeah, so Anna fitted in well there.
Yeah.
Did you have a crochet top on when you went to Byron Bay?
Where's
the-
the south? Is that
Yeah, what's that?
Bottom of
So
Tasmania.
Wilson's
Is that-
Promontory.
Is that Tasmania?
No.
Or is that just the mainland?
Brad and I went to Tasmania looking for the bottom, and you just can't get there. And apparently, it's only the mainland that counts anyway. They really didn't celebrate any of the islands.
Really?
There's no point or anything.
So that place you
there.
went to, that's
So
in
what I have-
Victoria.
In Victoria,
okay.
yeah, but there's no place that you can walk to either. We went to the southernmost place that you could get to, and
Yeah.
we were disappointed that we couldn't get there until this amphibious boat turned up on the beach, offering tours. So we quickly ran and booked a tour, and we went down to the southernmost end.
Was this some guy that had bought like an amphibious vehicle, or it was
homemade?
It was a
it's a raft?
it was a very professional boat. It was
Okay.
like a $3 million huge kind of.
Wow.
You see those things? They've got them
That's a
up
lot
in
of tours.
Queensland too, don't they?
Yeah, I think so.
And like turn them in.
Yeah.
What an odd thing.
Okay. Well, Tasmania has no bottom. Is what I
What
find.
if you went to no bottom? What if you went to Cape York in the wet season but took the amphibious boat, amphibious car?
It's only $3 million. Like,
But it's either
drop in the bucket.
either wheels or motor,
yeah.
so the road wouldn't be that deep.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah.
That's fair enough.
Anyway,
Just thinking if that works. Yeah. Anyways, anyway, move on, Joel. So what's the western? Is that Perth?
no. Further north, up near Monkey Mia, there is.
Oh yeah, of course. That's
Steep
where all
Point.
the dolphins are. Monkey Mia, Monkey Mia.
Yeah.
Yep. We're looking on the map as we speak, aren't we?
We are.
What did you say? Sorry.
Steep Point is the most westerly point. It's just in here.
Is it steep there?
I don't know why it's called Steep Point. Not really. It was a pretty hard slog to get there in our 4-wheel drive, but it was worth it. We've got a photo there.
There's an area called Useless Loop there.
Oh, there you go.
So you did the western, the southern, and the eastern.
Yep.
And in that order, you went to Byron first.
Yeah, we went to Byron first. I'm trying to think. We went to Byron first, and then we went to Steep Point, and then
all the way over to
that was
Western
on
Australia.
our trip, and then after our trip around Australia, we went down to Victoria and had a trip down there, and we did that.
Why did you decide to do such a big trip across Australia?
Oh, I have a father who likes 4-wheel driving and has always bought 4-wheel drive magazines as a kid, to read in the school holidays. And I had seen, an article about somebody taking their family around, and I'm like, Dad, that'd be great. But we never did it as kids, and it wasn't the done thing. But I mean, if you do it now, you'll be battling there with hundreds of other caravans and families, and it's kind of on everyone's bucket list to do. And when I met Brad, it was on his.
Oh, so you'd been planning it for a while, obviously.
Yeah.
It wasn't just like...
No, I was a kid when I'd seen it and thought, that's a good idea.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
How does it work logistically? Because you've got... How many... Did you have all 4 kids at the time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that would have been a bit...
So
just
Banjo
that.
was 3.5.
Yep.
And we had devices with a lot of DVDs.
Content.
And we didn't have to do schoolwork. We got permission to have an extended leave with no homework done. But I thought, what are they going to do in the car? How about we get some homework? Shani came home on the last day without her homework. The teacher had gone home and everything. So she had it all sitting on her desk. And
Do you reckon she did that on purpose?
no. No, she's very studious.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, they're like, just get online and do it online. It's like there's not internet while we're away.
Yeah.
But anyway.
And so I know you've got a big 4-wheel drive, but you have a caravan?
Yeah, we have a trailer, 4-wheel drive camper trailer
Okay.
that could tow along wherever we go. Yep.
Do you have a record of how many kilometres you did?
I think it was about 25,000.
Wow.
Yep.
That's a long way. What is the number one highlight that you can remember from that trip?
It was the Carragini, so the Pilbara.
Oh, I don't know what that is.
It is.
Gloucester, I think. Oh, wait.
Yeah, the Carragini.
Carragini.
It's where all of the iron ore mines are when people go to WA.
Okay.
And
We'll have a photo of it right here.
Yeah.
Right in front of Joel.
Yeah, over my face. That's always a good idea.
Its closest place would be Broome, but it's about a day's drive south of Broome. And it's just a beautiful desert with spinifex grasses, and then there's these cracks in the ground, and there's these amazing gorges, like iron ore gorges with amazing patterns in the rocks, in the rock formations. The water in there is freezing, but it's absolutely beautiful.
So south of Broome or north of Broome?
South, yeah, probably.
Oh, down here.
A bit further. I don't know. Tom Price is the nearest.
There's Tom Price.
Oh, there we go. There it is.
Wow. It must be just a completely different world out there, yeah?
And it was so beautiful. And
Oh,
the people who were there were retirees in vans, and they couldn't climb down because their knees or hips weren't going so good. And the other group of people were like European tourists.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it was amazing how
Look at that. I mean, we're just looking at the
There
photos now. That's beautiful. Like those gorges that you're
Yeah.
talking about. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
gorgeous.
Gorgeous.
Wow, that's really cool. I'd really love to see that one day.
We do really live in a beautiful country. And I
Yeah.
think the more I've travelled outside of Australia, the more it makes me appreciate what we have.
I think when we travel, I really like to see the natural environment,
Mm.
like to see God's creation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
favourite.
Sorry, I'm a bit quiet because I'm a bit stunned by these photos. You see these photos every so often, you're like, it's so beautiful, but you don't really
Yeah.
know where it is. So it's
Yeah.
cool to have a reference of where it actually is.
There was actually a beautiful gorge that we went to, and it said, "Do not climb these rocks behind me." And so, of course, I'm very compliant. I don't want to do that. But Ted starts climbing, and I'm like, "Come on, he's a monkey." But Brad climbed up too, and there was a beautiful pool above.
Oh.
They're like, "Come on, come up!" And there was a little stream kind of pouring into the pool. So I got in and I swam over to the stream and looked up, and it was Spa Pool. And if anyone knows what Spa Pool is, it is the most amazing. Have a search. It's the most amazing little pool.
That's Joel for
And
that.
I literally gasped, like it was so
Like-
incredible. You know,
Yeah.
you don't think you're going to be finding something amazing, and you go to it and it's like,
Oh, like this?
yeah,
Wow. And obviously, like, that's going to be fresh water, isn't it?
yeah, it's icy.
And it's just icy cold.
Yeah.
Bit of a cold water immersion.
Hmm.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, congrats
Anyway.
on doing that.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Traveling around with 4 kids is a bit of an ordeal, but when we have parents on, we like to ask, what do you think God's taught you about being a parent? That I'm an
Could have
introvert?
given
That
me
you're
the
an
heads up
introvert?
for that. No, I'm kidding.
I don't give anyone heads up on this podcast.
Should have listened to more.
Yeah, that's right. I fly by the seat of my pants.
I think parenting is, it's a pretty special task. God's entrusted me to bring up his children. They're not mine, they're his, and he's put them in our family, and Brad and my family, to look after and take care of. And I want to do a good job, And I mean, number one, I want them to know him, to know Jesus. And so just pray for them all the time and try and model being a loving Christian as much as I can. And I want to show the kids that coming along to church is a priority. So I do, and make coming along to youth groups a priority. So we make sure that that's, something that they do on a regular basis.
Do you have a kind of rule with your kids? And it's interesting because I was actually having this discussion with some other people about like what age they still need to come to church before they make their own decision.
Yeah, well, my eldest is nearly 16 and we haven't had to go there yet because he still wants to come.
keep coming,
so
doesn't
I'm
he?
feeling very, very fortunate, very blessed by God that he's got that attitude of wanting to come, and he started going to late night at the end of last year on Saturday nights, and he's a light leader on Friday nights and loves it. So I haven't had to think about that yet. Hopefully I never will.
Yeah, exactly. But you're raising the odds of having more children. just to have a different experience of it.
Yeah, that's true.
What about like kind of in terms of your family, like do you have particular rhythms that you do as a family so that they are like reading the Bible or praying or anything like that?
Yeah, well, I never had like a family Bible time when I was growing up. And I know a lot of Christians do, they get their kids together for the Bible time and pray and read. And I never really knew how to do it in a non-awkward way and get them to sit around and, do a Bible time. There's kids' church, it's like that at kids' church. But, at our home, I would like it to be more relaxed. And so got kids' Bibles that we would read. I read with them every night. Sometimes it's a kids' Bible, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's something totally random. They get to choose, and I don't push it on them, but, we'll always go. They would have read all of the Bibles that we've got at some point. And but I did start the Word on the Street podcast for that very reason, to start the conversations with families.
Yeah.
And Colin Buchanan had a song that Banjo kept wanting to play about family time, the Bible family time and singing and praying. And he wanted to play that over and over. And every time I heard it, I felt so guilty because we weren't doing a formal Bible time. And we were listening to a different podcast, and I thought, oh, well, good Christian podcast for the family might be nice, and I couldn't find one. So I thought, well, I felt God say, well, I think you're equipped to do that. You've got the time, you can do that. So that's how the Word on the Street started. Even though I'm a little bit... I don't like hearing my own voice, so I don't even get the kids to listen to it in the car. So I make it, and my family don't even benefit from it. So that's a bit of a shame.
Well, they benefit from what you're learning through doing it.
That's right. And I have talked to Tim Bilhartz about something that is the best, most beneficial thing for the kids is for when parents just talk about God in everyday conversations, ad hoc conversations in the week. And just talking about God in everything all the time.
Because in that sense, it's not hidden from your children.
Yeah.
And then perhaps, or maybe not, I don't know, but you don't have to have the conversation about when they can or can't stop coming to church. They go, oh, this is, you're actually, and then if you keep going to church, you're actually living it out rather than saying you just have to go to church or something like that. Yeah.
When they get to an age where they're questioning it, they will already know my stance. They already know how important it is to me.
Yeah, or they're going to know, at least have some general idea of your response.
Yes.
or stuff like that.
I want to chat with everything before it's a problem.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I try to do that, and then I always have the fear of have I missed something? And I think I
always miss something.
Yeah, that's right. But I think I really identify with you saying you've been entrusted with someone. And I feel I don't know, you tell me if you feel this too, but I feel also the pressure of that, and then that actually ends up me probably not being as good a father as I could be, because I'm I've got to do this, and I don't do it. So I don't know if that's the case for you, but I think I actually have really learned, maybe through osmosis or just not even observing, not realizing that I'm observing it, is that I do see that you and Brad are always with your kids at church, whether it's Friday nights, which I know that you're making a big impact on coming to that, but also Saturday nights. And then also doesn't is it Shani or Lucy goes to on Sundays as well? Yeah,
Shani's got some mates on Sundays, so she wants to come up and see them. I come up in my pajamas and drop her off.
Well, that's really lovely that she does want to do that.
Yeah.
The final question before we wrap up the chips is, what do you think you know now as a Christian that you wish you knew when you were a younger Christian?
You said that the answer might come to me, but it still hasn't.
Hugely dramatic pause. Because the thing that I find interesting talking to you about your life is that in a sense, we haven't talked a lot about God, but it's exactly what you said at the start, was that God has been part of your life from the very beginning. And I think that in your responses, that's linked all through what you're actually saying, but we haven't so much as talked about, oh, God showed me this, or God showed me that. But I think you are saying that, but you're not.
Yep.
It's almost like you're living it out rather than saying it, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So that's why one of the reasons we came up with that question originally was so we could come up with real.
It's a good one.
Yeah, but so we could come up with real impactful things that we could clip and put out on social media, which we haven't done yet. But it's more about, I think, what do you see that's different now than when you were younger?
I think when I was younger, I really cared a lot about what other people thought of me. And I say this to the kids all the time. It doesn't matter what anybody thinks of you. It doesn't matter what I think of you or Dad or anybody. Who cares if you're popular or unpopular? It just matters what God thinks of you. And you just need to live to please Him only. And I think a lot of the time I spent living to, impress people, or I say the wrong things and people laugh at me. Or,
you said you were compliant.
Very compliant. I've always been somebody who's wanted to fit in and to be able, and I'm working on myself to be able to say, it doesn't matter. it doesn't matter if you don't fit in. It doesn't matter if you're not wearing, fashionable clothes of the time. It doesn't matter if you don't do sport, or follow any sport whatsoever.
Yeah.
It only matters what God thinks of you. And so I do try and I'm trying to reprogram my mind about that and trying to get the kids to believe that too.
I think that's a really great answer to the question. You said that like you're trying to reprogram your mind. What's like the one thing that you're working on right now that you think God's really like encouraging you to change?
So I think there's always going to be a time when you can't please everybody. I mean, all the time. And so as a person who was a stay-at-home mum for many, many years, and, now I've filled up my time doing so many other things, it's got a stigma to it. Like if you work full-time, everyone's going to be judging you. If you don't work at all, everyone's going to be judging you. And you just have to be happy with the decisions that you make. And you can hear the judgments, like I hear them, and it's about not taking it to heart and just saying that's my decision. And I know that what I've decided is, what I'm happy with. I've worked it out with God and this is what we're doing. I think it's especially hard running your own business and being your own boss, and you can be flexible with your time. And so it's very different to everybody else. Yeah.
And so that was difficult for you.
So I'm
when you
working on
first
that, just
started doing
trying. No, it's always difficult for me.
Yeah.
I'm just working on not worrying about what people think of me.
Yeah. Okay.
With how I spend my time in the day.
Yeah, and that's a hard thing. I think I'm getting a little bit better in that, but that used to be a really big thing for me too. It's like, oh, what does that person think of me? Oh, like trying to be impressive. That's one thing I always try to do.
Yeah.
But I think like what's interesting is you saying that you're talking about the decisions that you made. You're always trying to make them in step with what God wants. I think that's what I've really got out of what we're doing on this particular podcast and talking to you, is that God has been such an integral part of your life.
Yeah.
That it's almost like I was saying, it didn't come out on the podcast in a certain way, but it actually does in what you're actually doing in your life. So,
I'd say my greatest ministry is at home with the kids and spending time, supporting them in their lives, and that is where I have my main priority with my ministry at this time.
One question though, you're talking about being worried about what other people think. Have you seen that really? You've seen some growth in that area?
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't talk to strangers. We started this church, and we would go to, before we planted, we went to visit a lot of different churches, and we would walk in, and it was always a little bit nerve-wracking not knowing where the kids program was or what time it was on. And, we did a lot of research trying to find these questions out. We'd look on the internet beforehand. So it was really helpful research to be able to go, okay, with Soul Revival Church, we want to have clear communication on our website, and we want to be really welcoming to people when they walk in for the first time, because it is scary. And so I don't think I even visited that many churches, but knowing that I was a member of the launch team, and knowing that if we want to make this church work, we've got to work as a team, and we all have to be talking to strangers. And so I learnt that skill. And so, talking to strangers means putting aside all of your insecurities about yourself and asking other people questions, and getting over that hump and learning a new skill. Yeah.
That's cool. Brandon, final words before we wrap up the chips. You got anything to say?
Oh no, I think it's been extremely encouraging. I think I'm not a parent, and I might never be a parent, but I find it really interesting, because I think about, as Joel mentioned, we don't have the experiences of growing up in a Christian household. So I love hearing about how people try and figure out how to communicate their relationship with God with their kids, and try and share their faith with their kids. I always find that very interesting, because I'm like, I have no idea what I'm going to do. So I'm more than keen, if God blesses Beck and I with children in the future, to scab all your ideas and see if they work. It sounds good.
I think the one thing I've got from you and what you're saying that you do with Brad Anna is living it out.
Yeah.
And I think that's like probably the most important thing, is you're actually, to your best of your abilities, And no matter how sinful you are, you're trying to live as God wants you to live.
Yep.
And I think
Thank you.
but I think you've been doing that for a long time. And like the whole thing about like being worried about other people and all that, it's just because we're
Sinners.
sinful. We're sinful, right?
That's it.
Yeah.
And it's admitting when we sin and saying sorry
Mm.
and modelling that to our kids too.
Yeah, I think
That
so.
is important.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
It's been a great pleasure. And I'm happy to hear Brad's side of the story next week.
To hear more about our trips.
Yeah, that's right. But yeah, thanks so much for coming on. Thank you to everyone else who's listening or made it to the end. And the reason that we said that was because Anna said she listened to 2 episodes but didn't make it to the end of
I did
either
a bit
of
of
them.
research and I listened to a few episodes, but I wanted to listen to more rather than long.
Yes.
Yes, I never got to the last question.
Before we do finish, can you plug your podcast?
The
Please.
Word on the Street podcast is on all of the platforms where you would be listening to your podcast right now, and it is for you and your family to listen to together. Not preferably, but it's designed for a 10-minute car trip. But anywhere really, I feel like the car is a great time when you're sitting, doing nothing really.
I agree.
You're driving
Cool.
along, the kids are there, they're stuck, thinking about the day or whatever, looking out the window. Put on a podcast. Put on the Word on the Street.
Definitely.
Yep.
Link here.
Yeah, let's check that. We'll check the link in there. Are you on
There.
YouTube yet? Or are you just on the audio? That's fine.
yeah. No, there's nothing to see.
It's you. Yeah, but don't like people you doing the center of attention. So that's fair enough. Thanks heaps for being on, Anna. We really appreciate
Thanks for having me.
it. Thank you for being on, Braden.
No
We love you too.
Thanks, Braden. Thanks, Joel.
No worries. And we always finish with a one way. If you're happy to finish with a
One
one way,
way.
problem.
one way.